Hello, Facebook land. Yes, it is me again. I am Joshua Loya, aka Joshua the Jedi, the aspiring servant warrior. How are you doing? Wanted to take this opportunity as we have just left the noon no-gi class at Studio 540. Man, there's some savages in there. Some really solid training partners. And thank you, Uncle Joel, for teaching. I wanted to mention something, and this is, the camera's going to go a little funky. I'm going to turn off my Bluetooth keyboard so I don't. There we go. So this is somewhat of a controversial subject amongst the blind and visually impaired community, as well as the disabled community in general. And it's an interesting thing because oftentimes we as visually impaired people, if we do anything exceptional, we're told, oh man, you're such an inspiration. And honestly, for some people we might be. And for a lot of people, the idea that we do anything blind and visually impaired, it's hard for somebody who's not in our situation to fathom. And while sometimes people will say the I word, the "you're such an inspiration" phrase, they will say it out of a sense of guilt or condescension. They're trying to mask their own. There is that. Sometimes, though, we do something that might otherwise be a little bit exceptional for people in general. Just for the record, I don't think I'm better than anybody because of my martial arts experience. There's a lot of people who are further along and in a lot of ways better than me in many aspects of martial arts, some of which who are also totally blind. My friend Jeff Mata, for example, he's a much more experienced Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioner than I am. I will get the chance to train with my friend Ben McCandless later next month, and he trains in Tang Soo Do's, and I suspect that his kicks are better than mine. So here's just really the thing, though, is we might actually be an inspiration, and sometimes it's hard for us to hear it. Sometimes we don't know what place it's coming from. My general response to that whole "you're an inspiration" thing, because sometimes it rubs me the wrong way, because sometimes people will be like, oh, you're such an inspiration, you tied your shoes, all by yourself. It's kind of like independent living training, and I helped. I don't know. It can rub you the wrong way. Sometimes people say it with a tone of condescension and, oh, aren't you such a great poor little blind person? Sometimes they do say it that way. At the same time, sometimes we do things that really impress people. And I hate to say it, I think sometimes we as people in the blind and visually impaired community, this is what I can speak to. I can't speak to everyone else, although I can speak as another human being, that it's a little bit like the crabs in the bucket. Rather than help each other get out of kind of this difficult spot we're in, or rise to the next level or do something awesome, we like to pull people back and tear people down, because it's easier to do that. It's easier to tear people down and to make them feel bad for striving beyond their station, rather than it is easier to help lift them up and be happy for their successes. About 3 years ago, when I got my previous job at Braille Institute as their access technology specialist in the San Diego County campus, I tweeted out something about having gotten a new car or something like that, new job. I don't remember what the specifics was, but one of the mentions I got back on Twitter, and this person knows who they are if they're watching this, sighted wife, new car, job, pass in your blind card on your way out. Now, they might have meant it as a joke, but there is something to be said for being appreciative and glad for other people's successes. There are people who are extremely successful, who have surpassed me in many areas, and I'm happy that they're doing well. The thing is, I guess really my admonition or encouragement to my fellow blind and visually impaired colleagues, compatriots, peers, brothers and sisters, whatever you want to put it on that. As much as you can, I would encourage you to be gracious. Educate if you have the capacity to do that. If you are inclined to share me being distracted by a Twitter notification, I will continue going back to this thought once my voiceover stops. I don't want to obscure the camera. Okay, if you are inclined and have the energy to educate, yeah, totally do that. That would be awesome. Help people to understand. At the same time, honestly, if you don't know what to say, sometimes the best thing to say is just thank you. Even if you don't think you're particularly good at something, it's sometimes trying to educate and minimize, it's like, oh, it's not that big a deal. I'm like other blind people do just as much. I understand that we have a long way to go. Still, even in this day, this 21st century, almost 20 years into this century, that we have a long way to go towards equal rights and inclusion and full respect for people with disabilities. I get that. At the same time, sometimes we need to pick our battles. Sometimes it's not the right time. And I understand that largely that's a judgment call. I think what I would encourage all of you to do when somebody tells you you're an inspiration, they might genuinely mean it. They may not mean to be disrespectful. They may not mean to actually say, oh, look at you, poor blind person. That's so amazing that you live a life. Because for them, the idea of being blind scares them like crazy. And I just would encourage you, if you're watching this, to really think that through. And for those of you who aren't blind or visually impaired, who don't have a significant disability, I can talk. When you share with somebody that they are an inspiration or they are inspiring to you, think through what it is you're actually communicating to them. I absolutely love positive feedback. I'll admit, having played in bands and done a little bit of acting here and there, I like the spotlight. I'm not going to lie. But for me, it's bigger than that. I do surf and I train in martial arts and I do all this for my own therapy, for my own well-being, but also to encourage other people as well. And that's why I record these videos. That's why I post online about my experiences. And honestly, I think that I don't want to discourage anybody from offering encouragement because other people might appreciate it too. I guess the only admonishment I might give is remember that other people are people too. And sometimes people may take your compliments or your comments differently. So just possibly think through your response and appreciation for other people's efforts and their accomplishments. And rather than put people up on pedestals, treat them like real people. Ask them questions. Tell them, hey, man, that's a really good job, man. I don't even know if I could have done that, or whatever it is. Whatever it's going to be that's going to express the sentiment. And maybe even think about why you're expressing what you're expressing. I don't want you to be paralyzed with indecision and analysis. But it's an interesting topic. I'd be really curious to hear people's comments, to read people's comments after I finish this video, just to kind of see where people are with this whole idea of expressing to somebody that they're an inspiration. I think the biggest thing I would suggest or encourage, because I have seen this, where people will post pictures of people or videos of people of look at this blind person crossing the street, how amazing. And that's, I think that if you actually talk to the person that's crossing the street, you just like, hey, is it okay if I show you doing this or whatever, like that would be a different situation. But I have also seen where people will do a good deed to somebody who's disabled. The disabled person might not have even wanted the help in the first place, and then the able-bodied person ends up getting all this credit and like for helping this poor blind person. I mean, I know that's a separate little side thing, but I think honestly, going back to, if you're unsure how to act relevant to disability-related things, and if you're unsure of what to express or how to express it, just realize we're all people, and I guess my the way I operate is this: I assume the best possible interpretation given the facts that I know, and while it might be Pollyannish to assume the best about people, until I have a real reason to assume something negative about somebody, I think that for me, I would prefer to assume that they mean well, and then as I have evidence that they mean something different, then then I can adjust how I respond to them in future interactions. So I think I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to actually check real quick to see if we have any comments. Hey, what's up, Jennifer? How you doing? Hello, John. Hey, what's up, P? Man, I haven't talked to you in forever. Paula, Erica down down under in Australia. Casey, what's up, man? From Casey and I were in Mr. Haddis's English class together at SoCal High. What's up, Lana? Bill? Paul Webb from from Century Martial Arts. Such a cool guy. If you ever get a chance to train with Paul, by the way, he's a real solid teacher. He knows his martial arts very well, and he tells some awesome stories. It's actually really funny that me and my wife were standing there with our instructor, Scott Conway, and at the end of the Maya convention earlier this year, and Mr. Webb was apologizing for being long-winded. Meanwhile, my wife and I were like, no, please continue. We were happy to listen to him tell stories. It was really cool. My Aunt Leslie, hello. Hey, how you doing? Oh, and you just caught me? All right. I think that's it for the comments for now. If I missed any, I'll try to respond later in the comments. And I've said it many times, we're about ready to make it on the rest of the way home. So I have said it many times. I believe it strongly. Adventure is a state of mind. God bless you, and I love you all.